Hi guys, in this episode we're going to be looking at the ADHD medication Foquest. Now Foquest is the exact same active ingredient, methylphenidate, as what you would find in bifenton and Concerta. So I guess the first question you might want to wonder is, how come you hardly ever hear about Foquest? Well, the answer is relatively simple and has nothing to do with medicine. It's all about marketing. So Concerta came out first in 2003, followed by bifenton in 2006, and Foquest didn't show up on the scene until 2017. So by being late to the party, it's lost market share in the ADHD department. So in my opinion, Foquest is definitely a deserving medication for ADHD, but as with all medicines, there's some upsides and downsides. So in this episode, I'll start first by running you through the main side effects you might experience if your doctor puts you on this one, and some workarounds that I use with my patients. And then at the conclusion, we'll look at why you might want to consider Foquest over Concerta or bifenton. All right, so let's jump right in. The first and most common side effect on Foquest by far was insomnia. And that was noticed in 30.3% of users. So roughly a third of people notice insomnia. Solution to that is simple. Don't take it close to bed. Take it as soon as you wake up in the morning and you should be good. Number two, second most common side effect was headaches. And that was noticed in 10% of people, or 10.8%. The solution to that very often is just acclimating to the medication. If you take it for a few weeks, your body eventually adapts to it. If that doesn't occur, you can always switch and try a different one. But in my experience, it's not usually a deal breaker. Number three was reduced appetite. That was noticed in 8.1% of people. Solution to that is typically just trying to eat in the morning before it switches off your appetite. Take a snack through the day, and then towards the nightfall, when the drug is wearing off, your appetite should return, so you'll load up on your calories at that point. Next up, number four was nausea, feeling sick in the stomach. And actually, unusually with this drug, there's actually three all tied for 7%. Nausea, upper respiratory tract infections, aka colds, and I'll explain why in a second, and feeling anxious. All three of those were noticed in approximately 7% of users. The anxiety, that's self-explanatory. It is a stimulant medication that you're taking, so you would expect anxiety as a spin-off. The nausea, most medications affect some people's stomachs and rub them the wrong way, causing nausea. That's almost inevitable with every medication. The weird one was getting colds, and the reason for that will be explained in the next category of side effects. So next up, at number 7, was this, dry mouth. And that was noticed in 6.5% of users. Now, if you notice, that correlates pretty close to how many people were getting common colds as well, or upper respiratory tract infections. And the reason for that correlation is that just like how you get sicker and more infections in the wintertime because the air is dry, same thing happens with Foquest or any medication that tends to cause dry mucous membranes. By removing the slime that's there, it makes it a lot easier for bacteria and microbes to get in there and stay overnight and cause problems. So that's why you tend to see more colds, and it's because of that. Next up, also at a tie, number 8 for also 6.5%, was irritability. Now, again, that's not surprising. You're taking a stimulant, so just like taking too much coffee, in some people, you're gonna feel irritable. What you're always trying to do is weigh the pros and cons of it. Is that effect worth it? Is the upside worth it versus the downside? For most people it is, in terms of being able to output and perform at a higher level. The next one was sinusitis, which is basically another form of infections in the nasal cavities and the passages called the sinuses. And again, we explain why that is because of the dryness. And that was noticed in 5.4% of users. Number 10, again, not surprising, was jitteriness, feeling jittery, and that was noticed in also 5.4% of users. So overall, as you can see, not a bad side effect profile whatsoever, and there's ways of getting around a lot of these things. For example, if one of the side effects was a real deal breaker for you, you could try a lower dose. You could try it for longer and see if your body adapts to it, or you could see your provider and just switch to another one. Like I said, Foquest is one of 3 of the methylphenidates. You could also be on Concerta, you could also be on bifentin, you could also be on Ritalin SR. All right, so while not common, 3 other ones that people always ask on these. Oh, and this here in the margin, the numbers of people in this study was 363, and the time that they ran the study over was 6 months. That's what this is referring to. So the other 3 that people are always asking me about is libido, loss in desire for libido, weight loss, and weight gain. So for libido, that was a decline in libido was only seen in 1.4%, so not that bad at all, almost negligible. Weight loss was about 9% of users, which is very comparable to the other 2 methylphenidates. In Concerta, it's about 10% and bifentin 2%. Then, strangely, there's also weight gain reported with this one, which is unusual for the other categories of stimulant, and that was in 5.1%. Now, let's quickly look at why you'd want to choose Foquest over Concerta or bifentin or vice versa, as they're all methylphenidates. So what's the difference? Well, it comes down to this. If this is our bifentin, this is Concerta, and this one here is our Foquest. The first thing you want to look at is their duration of action. So bifentin lasts for about 8 hours after you take it. The Concerta lasts for approximately 10 hours, and Foquest comes in at king, lasting about 14 to 16 hours. Now, that might be an advantage as an adult, but if you're looking at a kid, you don't want the kid up at 2 in the morning, so bifentin would be a better choice for a child. For an adult, you're going to be staying up at night, especially if you're in university and studying. You want to be able to start your day and keep going into the early night before it shuts off, and that's where Foquest shines. Another consideration between adults and kids using these meds is that bifentin comes as a capsule with a bunch of beads in it. So for kids that can't swallow a tablet or a capsule, bifentin, you can open the capsule and sprinkle the beads out onto the food, making it easy to consume. You can't do that with Concerta, you can't with Foquest. So to conclude, generally I would recommend bifentin as a first choice for kids and Concerta or Foquest for adults. Now, one case where you might not want to use Foquest is if you already have a problem with insomnia, because Foquest has a much longer duration of action. It's going to take longer before it turns off. So that would be one thing to consider. The other is if you're having a severe problem with appetite issues, the Concerta releases more of its load earlier in the day, so it tends to kill your appetite. Whereas Foquest, because it's releasing itself gradually and slowly, tends not to kill your appetite as badly. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.